Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today is Friday, October 2nd, 2020. And while it is only the second day of October, it feels like October has already been a year. Oh, goodness, the news is flying fast these days, and it is coming at us with a vengeance, with lots of emotions, pretty much all the emotions one could imagine. Yeah, so last night, I think it was around maybe midnight or 1 in the morning. I was relaxing. I was about to go to bed, just watching some Seinfeld on TV. And I do what a lot of people tell you not to do, which is to open up Twitter right before going to bed. And of course, opening up Twitter, I see that Donald Trump posted on his Twitter account that he and Melania both tested positive for COVID-19. And of course, Twitter chaos ensued. Lots of people talking, lots of people, sending thoughts and prayers, genuinely and sarcastically. Many people sincerely wishing them well, that they don't get too sick. Other people wondering if it's a hoax or not. I mean, not a hoax, but rather if it's true that he actually tested positive for COVID, or if this is some type of lie. Other people talking about planes that went up in the air that are nuclear ready planes. Other people talking about this, talking about that. Lots of things. There was a lot of stuff going on with Twitter last night, and I myself, I think I expressed a simultaneous desire for them to not get too sick, but to feel a little bit of it, only so that it wakes them up. And I mean, the bare minimum that would take to shock them and make them realize that this is a big deal, it's a big issue, and we should take it more seriously. I don't know what would require, what level of seriousness would trigger that. Again, it could. Just even the test of being positive could trigger it in some people. So I hope that even just the test of being positive would shake them awake and make them take this more seriously. And other people talking about line of succession, other people talking about, have to quarantine Pence and quarantine Nancy Pelosi, and this idea of, well, does Pence have it or who has it? Oh, there was just the debate. Does that mean Biden has it? Just this, it's a vast amount of uncertainty about what was happening, who has the virus, but also what will happen. What will happen with the election process, what will happen with the communication process, what will happen with the debates, what will happen with just management of the government, the day-to-day, what will happen with the Supreme Court nomination, what will happen with so much stuff coming up in the next, I think the election's 31 days from now. So, but right before I went to bed, I was talking with a friend, and it's a friend of mine who is from East Africa, and he was talking to me. And sometimes my friends from overseas have this perspective more often, where they go, well, how do you know he's telling the truth? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm not so sure I believe that he has it. I mean, he lies about everything else. Why wouldn't he lie about this? I was like, huh. And right after Trump got elected in 2016, I was doing research to try to figure out what happened. And my roommate suggested, hey, look into Cambridge Analytica and Renaissance Technology and Technologies and Robert Mercer and some of this stuff. And so I started looking into it. I started looking into Twitter bots and came across different sources talking about how the Russian government was using Twitter bots and fake accounts, and other governments have used these things to sow chaos in society. And talking with my friends, they're like, no way, man. Like the friends here in the US, no way. That's not. I talked to my friends in Eastern Europe, and they're like, of course. Like, of course that's happening. Like, are you kidding? Of course. Yeah, obviously. And so I find that perspective different, that one person could believe it so much and one person could be so skeptical of it. And I'm going to tell a story that tells you why I feel a little cautious right now with regards to the diagnosis. This was back in like 2012. I was basically, I'm not going to tell the full story because it's quite a long story, but basically I had a woman, we broke up, and she told me she was pregnant, but I think she was lying. So I think she lied to me about being pregnant. And I say I think because I couldn't verify it for sure. And I went through, when she told me, I was believing it, and I was like, oh my gosh, my life is going to change. I was going through I was at the grocery store, and I was stopping in the baby food aisle, and I was looking at the baby stuff quite significantly and thinking about, okay, what kind of job do I need to get to change my life? Oh my God, this is going to be crazy. I didn't even want to be in a relationship with this girl, but we're going to have a baby. So I'm going to take care of this baby no matter what happens. And that's it. There we go. Game on. And so I was talking to a few of my friends at the time, and they're like, oh my God, man, that's crazy. I can't believe you're about to be a dad. Oh, it's crazy. What a crazy story. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine what it would be like, this and that. And I talked to mostly, a few of my guy friends that were living in the same house and same neighborhood as me. And then I talked to, one of the girl friends out there, and she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's crazy. And then we had a guest that came from, came in. I was in Colorado at the time. A guest that came in from California. And it was a guest that was staying in one of our rooms as an Airbnb. He was an older gentleman. He and his wife were staying. And this is, they stayed a few times before. And so this time he stayed, and he liked his whiskey, his bourbon, actually. So he and I would sit and drink Maker's Mark 46, I think it was. And I started to tell him the whole story of what was going on with this girl in like reverse chronological order. And then when I finished, he goes, Jim, how much do you trust this girl? And I was like, huh? He says, because women lie about this. And I was like, what? A woman could lie about this? No way. That would be despicable. Oh my gosh, that would be one of the worst things that a woman could do to me. She could lie about having a baby of mine? Oh, I was furious. But it was almost like this veil had lifted, and I just started to see it clearly. How much did I trust this girl? She had lied to me before. I knew she had lied to me before. I started recounting all the ways, the small things in the ways in which she had lied. I started to try to piece the story together, and I noticed, okay, well, there was like maybe a 1% chance this thing happened, and a 1% chance this thing happened, and here and here and here. And what I learned, the brief thing I learned in statistics in school is that if you multiply, or probability rather, if you want all of those things to happen at the same time, you multiply those probabilities together. And 1% times 1% times 1% times 1% is very, very small, very, very low odds. That's something that all of those things would happen. And I finally confronted her on it. So it was long distance. So I confronted her over a video call. And I was like, listen, for all of these things to happen, each one is possible, but for all of them to happen together is very, very unlikely. I just want, could I talk to the doctor? Could I? No, it's my medical right. It's privacy. This and that. I was like, well, I mean, I'm having a hard time believing. Oh, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And so we went different ways. And this was in like May, 2012 or something. And then by September, I still didn't know whether she was telling the truth or not. And I reached out and I called her, and I actually apologized. I apologized because I thought if she were lying, how much pain must she have been feeling to get to that point to lie about something like that? And so I called and I told her about how much, that I may have done to cause or contribute pain to her life, and that I felt bad and I felt sorry for what and I apologized for what I did. And I felt so much better. And I forgave her. Because I didn't want to hold a grudge against women going forward, and think that all women are out to try to lie and cheat and screw me over. I tried to dig deeply into what I was feeling, but also into what she might have been feeling, to figure out why she might have done something like this, if she did it. So I tell that story to pull back and extrapolate a little bit to what's going on with Trump and the fact that it sounds really eerily similar to me. And so I'm cautious because this woman had a tendency to lie about a lot of things, almost pathologically, I would say. And I think Trump does as well. And it seemed in a moment of deep desperation and a deep fear of loss, she would have done something like this. And I imagine he's in a deep moment of desperation and fear of loss and might do something like that. And the kicker was that because the medical records were private, I couldn't really find out unless I saw obvious symptoms that she was becoming pregnant. And I would say the same thing with Trump. I mean, his medical records are private. Yes, there was a letter from the doctor, but I don't know. There's just, maybe I got burned so badly that part of me is just very skeptical and not sure. And again, maybe the only way to find out is to see if he has the symptoms. And if he doesn't show the symptoms, do I really know whether he got it or not? And so I share this not to say that I am certain he does not have it, nor to say that I am certain he has it, more to talk about just how much of our interactions with each other rely on trust. We trust that when he said it, he has it. And we trust that the doctor who wrote the letter, I think it was his physician for the presidency, who wrote the letter, is telling the truth. Because we don't see the test results. We don't know how to interpret the test results. We don't know a lot of this stuff. We trust that the machine is working. Some people trusted none of those three things. And on Twitter, they were only saying, okay, well, there are these two planes that went up, that these planes are to show other nations that we are nuclear ready and don't mess with us. And they started flashing on the radar. And so some people trusted that more. I trusted that more for a second. But then other people said, oh, but those planes are always flying. It was pre-scheduled flights, et cetera, et cetera. It just makes me pause and think about, what do we trust? Who do we trust to be giving us the honest information? And at times, trust is all we have. I'd say most of the time, but like many times, it's all we have. I don't know. I personally find it very hard to trust the words that are coming out of his mouth, because he lies and doesn't seem to have any remorse about saying one thing on TV and then saying the exact opposite thing. And when people show him the clip, being, oh, I never said that. I never knew that person. I didn't know. And so it's almost the boy who cried wolf story. Is he pretending that is he crying wolf and there's not actually a wolf there just to get attention? Or is there actually a wolf there and he's in for a rough ride? I don't know. I'm not saying this is a clear answer and the perfect thing, and I know what's going on. More of a, life is complex, and a lot of times we just sit here in this middle of uncertainty and not knowing which way is up, and hoping that people tell us the truth. Because what kind of society do we have where we don't believe people and we're skeptical over everything that they say? You know, if I have to personally verify every single fact that's coming out, I'll get nothing done. I'd get absolutely nothing done. If I looked at a website and like a Wikipedia article and it says a certain thing, like if it says Michael Jordan is 6'6", and then I'd be like, oh, okay, is he really 6'6"? Actually, I don't know what number he is. I don't know how tall he is. Okay, but maybe it says he's 6'6", but do I really believe it? Okay, so now I look up to see who wrote that. Oh, okay, maybe it's a famous sports writer, sports commentator. Maybe it's Dick Vitale or somebody like that. Oh, okay, then I trust it. But really, do I trust it? Do I actually have to go there with my own measuring tape and physically measure him in person for me to trust it? And even then, do I trust the measuring tape? Like, or do I have to get a perfectly, one that is used by, I don't know, like, how do I trust the measuring tape? Like, it's this cascade of trust that we need to have trust to function in society. I mean, going back down to the expectation thing I talked about the other day, it's like, I have to trust that what I expect will happen in the world will happen. If I reach out and turn the doorknob, I have to trust that when I turn the doorknob, the door is going to open. If it doesn't open, I'm in trouble. Right? And so when my expectations don't match if my expectations are constantly not being met, at least in a close enough way that it makes sense to me, I'd be totally confused with the world. What if I go up to a door and I turn the handle to the right and all of a sudden it gets hot? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I'd be so confused. What if one time when I turn the handle to the right, it turns hot? One time I turn it to the right and something kicks me from behind. One time I turn it to the right and some funny noise goes off. One time, having this unpredictability can make me not trust what's going on in the world and could leave me in a state of almost paralysis. And so this is not to be a definitive answer, but to just more explore how trust in society really impacts us. I mean, when I first posted it on Facebook to say that that Trump and Melania had come down with COVID, or that they tested positive for COVID, a friend of mine says, oh, where's the source? Because he's like, are you getting pranked? Can I trust the information that you're telling me? Which I understand. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going around the internet and not everyone does their research. Not everyone does the research that satisfies everyone else's trust requirements. Let me put it that way. And so I told him that, it was tweeted out by Donald Trump himself. And he seemed to trust it at that point. But other people would be like, okay, good. So he tweeted it out. Do I really trust it? Or maybe it needs to be tweeted out by NBC News or one of the large news stations. Or maybe they need to see an official document, or maybe they need to see the actual test results, or maybe they need to see, et cetera, et cetera. So many different levels of trust requirements that we individuals have for different things. When it comes to this specific situation, maybe some of us are very trusting. Listen, he said it, so, if he said it, he has it, because why else would he say it? But in other situations, we're incredibly doubtful. Like when our spouse says they're going to go hang out with friends. We're like, are you really going to hang out with friends? Or are you going to hang out with a lover and you're just telling me you're going to hang out with friends? Are you lying to me? Or when we look at something like climate change and all the science, 99% of the scientists or whatever say that climate change is real and climate change is having a huge effect. And we go, but you know what? It doesn't. It's the weather hasn't changed too much here. It's just natural. It's just a natural swing. Like, what does that person trust? That person trusts their own intuition more than they trust the scientists. Like, what trust requirements do we have? I'm grateful I'm doing this talk right now because, well, even though my nose is super itchy, I like this idea of trust requirements. What level of trust do we require in different scenarios? And what meets those requirements? And to get even more fascinating, why do we have different levels of trust requirements in different scenarios? What happened to us in our lives that either made us more trusting or less trusting of certain people or certain situations? That fascinates me. So for me, when I think, when I thought about this in terms of somebody having private medical records that has a huge impact on my life and not knowing whether they're telling the truth or not and having a history of lying in the past. Yeah, I mean, this specific scenario, I go, wait a second, I got burned bad by this in the past, so I'm going to pay more attention to this. Whereas other people may have not been burned by it, so they're like, of course he has it. I mean, he says he has it, he has it. But for me, somebody said that they were, had something, and I'm pretty sure they did not. But for a long time, I really believed it. And so it's this idea of my trust requirements for this specific situation are maybe much higher, or there's a higher threshold to meet my trust. Whereas in other situations, I can trust very quickly. If I'm in a foreign country and I'm hanging out with local friends and they say, don't go to this one area because it's pretty dangerous, I don't go. Right? Or even more so, if I'm hanging out with local friends and they take me to a restaurant that they really like, I'm like, yeah. Well, depending on the person, right? But if it's a person that I know that we have very similar food tastes and stuff like this, like, oh yeah, let's go to this place for sure. Some people I can trust immediately like that, but other people not so much. And I find that to be maybe just the part of life that we don't talk about too much. Like the specific things that we trust from specific individuals. I don't know. Who do you trust? Who don't you trust? In which situations? What would it take to earn your trust for you to believe that Donald Trump and Melania Trump have COVID-19? Is it just them saying it? And I'm not saying any of these is right or wrong. I'm just curious. Is it just them saying it? Is it them saying it through Twitter? Is it them saying it in person over like using their voice? Is it a video of them saying it? Do they have to go into the hospital and be hospitalized for you to believe that they have it? If Dr. Anthony Fauci said that they had it, would you believe it? If certain news reporters on any of the channels, so maybe even CNN or Fox News, or could be different varieties of that, then would you believe that they have it? What proof do you need to believe this? What proof do you need to believe anything? And how does that vary? What proof do you need to believe that that the election will be fair, free and fair? What proof do you need to believe that the election is not rigged? Who do you trust to be telling you the truth about what's going on? Gosh, isn't this a foundation of so much of our relationships and our interactions in life? Just how much we trust other people, and whom do we trust to be telling us the truth? Wow. What happens when we stop trusting people? How much friction does that add to our life? When we have to go to the next level to get verification. It's not about not trusting people in general. I think it's impossible to live a life where we don't trust others. I think it's inherent. I mean, we have to trust How do you go to a restaurant if you don't trust the people who are cooking there? Maybe you cook everything at home, but then how do you trust the food that you're eating if you don't trust the farmers or the people who delivered it? Okay, maybe you grow the food in your own backyard, but then how do you trust the people who created the fertilizers? Okay, maybe you get your own fertilizer, but how do you trust the people that are having the planes up above or having the electrical wires that are running through your yards? I mean, if you don't trust anyone, it could really drive you crazy. So who do we trust and why do we trust them? And who don't we trust and why don't we trust them? And how much do we trust someone? Do we trust them on some things but not other things? Do we think they're being honest with us in one way but not in another way? I know the show has had a lot of questions, and I hope these questions have helped you a little bit think about this. I think one of the hardest parts about life is to just sit in the uncertainty of not knowing. To not force one answer one way or force it the other way, but just say, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. It's okay. I don't need to know what's going on. Yeah. So I guess we'll see. I worry that this situation seems very, very similar to what I faced, and that he could be lying. I would really, 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 really hope he wouldn't be doing that. Because if I thought someone lying to me about being pregnant was despicable, I really think someone lying to the whole nation and to the world about having a potentially deadly disease as the leader of the country is beyond. That being said, we may never know. And I just hope that this country and this world goes through this situation with eyes open, but hearts open as well. Because even if he were lying about something like this, it would be because he's in a really, really, really dark place. And I don't wish that upon anyone. We're all just human beings trying to get through this world, and we don't know what we're doing. We sure don't know what we're doing. We can pretend, but we can pretend with the best of them. Oh my goodness, we are good at giving the impression that we know what's going on. I was watching a show. They're talking about, what makes us human? What makes us different than all these other animals? Oh, it's cosmos. And perhaps one of it is just pretending like we know what's going on. I wonder what other animals are like that, where they have this false confidence. Oh yeah, I know what's going on. I know the direction. I know how to get there. I don't need to ask for directions. Come on, you don't know what's going on. Oh, Trump is definitely doing this, really? Oh, Trump is definitely doing that, really? How do you know either is certain? Oh, oh. Anyways, I am fading fast, as with I kept the news commentators company last night as I stayed up to goodness 4 a.m. or something, trying to keep track of what was going on and watching the news anchors on CNN like get more and more tired. I'm like, they're still going. It's like 4 a.m. They're still talking on this show. Wow. These people are normally on at 9 p.m. They're still going at 4 a.m. Did they have to wake up? Are they at home? Are they at the studio? Is their studio at home look that nice? Wow. How could I make my studio look that nice? Goodness. All these questions going through my mind. So on that note, we've reached the 30-minute mark. I hope some of y'all enjoyed this, and I hope it just helps you reflect a little bit on our different trust requirements that we have of different people in different situations. I know it's helped me be a little more aware of that. So anyways, have a weekend. Have a weekend. A good, bad, chaotic, relaxing. Have a weekend of whichever flavor you desire, because we all need something a little bit different right now, and it's okay to need something differently. Need something different, not differently. Language. All right, bye, y'all.